What's up, guys? It is a beautiful day in Bellevue. We actually slept in, not intentionally, but we slept in a bit today. But hey, a weekend away, that's what it's for, is to be able to relax, right? So we're gonna head into downtown Seattle now, and we're going on Bill Spiedel's underground tour to start our day of fun. So the street behind us here is Front Street, or First Street. It was called Front Street. And this was the street that lined right at the very front of the water in Seattle back in the 1800s. And it actually would go underwater when the tide was at its highest.
So where we're walking to is the original Seattle. The new Seattle's up top, but this is the original level of things.
So all these walls here are retaining walls. And this is how they elevated the streets. And they built these beams across and then archways to make the sidewalks. These are retaining walls that essentially is how they elevated the streets in Seattle and then built the buildings.
So, we burned the city to the ground, we rebuilt the city. Now I'm going to tell you guys about how we paid for the rebuild. The city engineers have already told us it's going to cost a fortune. Seattle has got to figure out a way to raise some money. So we decided to look at the census. The idea being we're going to figure out which occupations in town are making the most money, and those are going to be the occupations that we tax to pay for the rebuild. Well, right here in Pioneer Square, in a 6-block area, there are over 1,500 young, single women who all list their occupation as seamstress. Good. The city now knows how they're going to pay for the rebuild. And over the course of the next 8 years, 87% of all of the city's revenue would come from taxes and fees levied on alcohol, gambling, and sewing. A lot of the alcohol and the gambling and a lot of the sewing that were going on up there on the street level, they came down here into these tunnels to try to avoid paying taxes.
So this building was actually originally a mercantile shop, and the artifacts in here were left here from movie sets. And that's where a lot of the artifacts come from in a lot of these tunnels. It's just various movie sets. And they're preserved. And that's the oldest fresco in Seattle. So from this building up here, this tall tower here, they would slide the logs down to the sawmill here, and that's why they called it Skid Row. And then essentially in the city, now on this side of the city, is then where all the bars ended up in the sort of sleazier part of town and the bad part of town. So we just finished our tour with the Bill Spidel, I mispronounced it earlier, but Bill Spidel's underground tour, and that was awesome. That was so very cool, just to see the whole underground part of Seattle.
And it's short, it's good, you can pair it in with doing a ton of other things. It's about 90 minutes, but we got so much history of the city, and yeah, it was good. Highly recommend it. Yeah, a couple of the top TripAdvisor things are city tours, and we opted to do the underground tour, just something unique, because we have been through Seattle a number of times, and they totally cover a ton of the history of Seattle, and you learn about the underground. I thought it was literally tunnels, but what it is essentially the historic Seattle's buildings, the underground, before they built it up onto this elevated city. So it's just an awesome tour. Definitely highly recommend. Even if you've been here a ton, or if you're from here, just do it. For sure. We just missed the fish toss, unfortunately, but we heard the cheer.
Yeah, they do these things where you buy the fish and they toss the fish back in, and
it's a big deal.
It's kind of a cheesy little thing to watch, but it's kind of cool. So next on our list here is Pike Place Market. We are wandering through. It's full of restaurants, there's shops, there's little artisan craft stores, everything you can sort of imagine from a marketplace.
And the market itself is really similar to Granville Island. There's like a public market there, and so it's the same kind of thing. It's really specific things, and then some cool, like it's a big walking space. So very similar to Granville Island.
And it's just a fun, nice thing to do on a beautiful day on the coast here in Seattle. So this Beecher's Handmade Cheese place makes the best mac and cheese. It's ridiculous. And they have the whole process of the cheese being made right inside for everyone to see while you're waiting to order. So another thing to do here in Seattle when you're at Pike Place Market is come to the very first Starbucks. This is where it all started. Of course, naturally it lines up all the way out the door, and it takes forever to just get a basic coffee you'd normally get from Starbucks.
On to a Seattle classic. We actually thought it was gone. It's not my favorite thing to go and see, but the Gum Alley.
Yeah, we don't think I got rid of it, but apparently it's still here. Kind of quirky. It's at Pike Place Market. You just walk down a little road right next to the main entrance area, and you can find this. So a number of years ago, Katie and I actually put some gum on here with our good friends Jason and Leah. Which ones they were, I don't remember. That's it for our time here at Pike Place Market and the Pioneer Square area. You can usually spend an hour or two. You can grab some lunch, you can grab some coffee. You can spend the full day, but if you're trying to do just sort of a quick weekend and hit the highlights, you can for sure spend an hour or two just wandering through. It's only about a 10-minute walk from the underground tour, and we're gonna head to a different part of town now and do the Museum of Pop Culture, Space Needle, and the Chihuly Glass Museum. Glass Garden. Visit to Seattle is never complete without a coffee, since this seems to be the city of coffee. So we're trying something a little different than Starbucks. Your first taste of Storyville coffee. How do you like it?
My sugar didn't dissolve, so I just got a mouthful of sugar. It was awesome.
Okay, well mine's good, so.
It's good.
Turn right onto Cedar Street, then continue on to 5th Avenue.
All right, so we're moving on. First off, we're gonna grab some lunch. We're over by the Space Needle, Museum of Pop Culture in Chihuly Glass Garden. It's a bit of madness though today because Bumbershoot, or whatever, this big festival's on and it's right next to them. So parking's expensive and there's a lot of people everywhere. But we're gonna grab some lunch and then we're heading into the Museum of Pop Culture. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe up here. Check out our most recent other videos over here, or subscribe to our other channel over here.